Victor Kane was a hitman, but one who couldn't get a single job right. From the moment he stepped into the deadly world of contract killing, every assignment spiraled into disaster. What if the man hired to be the perfect assassin was actually the worst nightmare for those who hired him? This is the story of a hitman who botched every job, and the dangerous game that kept pulling him deeper into the shadows. Victor Kane's journey into the dark world of contract killing began with a promise of quick money and quiet work. At first, it seemed like an opportunity to rise above his troubled past, a chance to leave behind the petty crimes he was used to and enter a more serious, more dangerous world. He had heard stories of hitmen who worked like ghosts, striking, without a trace, and he imagined himself as one of them. But reality hit hard and fast. His very first assignment was simple in theory: eliminate a local drug dealer who had been causing trouble for a small but powerful crime family. The job came with clear instructions: no mistakes, no witnesses, and most importantly, no attention. Victor planned the hit carefully, scouting the target's neighborhood days in advance. He learned the dealer's routine, the times he left his apartment, and the places he visited. Victor was determined to get it right, to prove that he was made for this world. On the day of the hit, Victor approached the target's building with a mix of nerves and resolve. He had the weapon ready, a silenced pistol meant to keep things quiet. But as he waited in the shadows, something inside him tightened. His heart raced. His hands trembled ever so slightly. When the dealer stepped outside, Victor took aim and fired, but the bullet missed. The target heard the shot and dashed back inside, shouting for help. Panic set in. Victor was suddenly exposed, eyes on him from windows and the street. A passerby caught a glimpse of his face and started yelling for others to call the police. Realizing the situation had spiraled out of control, Victor fled the scene, disappearing into the maze of alleyways. The job was a complete failure. Not only had he failed to kill the target, but he had also left behind witnesses who could identify him. This first failure was more than just a mistake. It was a disaster. Word spread quickly in the underworld, and Victor's name became a joke among those who had once considered hiring him. Yet, no one knew the full story behind his clumsy escape. Victor himself was shaken, grappling with the reality that he was not the skilled killer he had imagined. The weight of his failure pressed on him, but there was no turning back. Despite this shaky start, Victor did not give up. He believed that with more experience, more careful planning, he could improve. His pride and desperation kept him moving forward. But the shadows he tried to navigate only grew darker and more dangerous, and his missteps would only deepen. Victor's first botched job was the start of a pattern, a cycle of failure that would haunt him and those around him. It revealed not only his lack of skill, but also how unforgiving the world of contract killing could be. A single mistake was not just a setback, it was a mark on his soul, a warning that in this line of work, perfection was the only way to survive. After the disastrous failure of his first job, Victor Kane found himself at a crossroads. The underworld is ruthless, and a botched hit could mean the end of a career, or worse, the end of a life. Yet somehow, Victor received a second chance. This time, the stakes were far higher. His new target was a powerful politician who had made enemies among influential crime syndicates. Eliminating him would shift power in the city's darkest corners. Victor knew this was his chance to prove himself, to finally earn respect and fear. Victor spent months preparing. Unlike the rushed job before, he took his time. He watched the politician from a distance, learning his schedule, his security detail, and his favorite routes. He studied the area around the politician's office and residence, mapping escape routes and potential obstacles. He acquired a new weapon, a sleek, silenced sniper rifle, hoping it would give him the precision his previous pistol lacked. Confidence grew with every careful step. On the day of the assassination, Victor positioned himself on a rooftop overlooking the politicians' morning route. Everything seemed perfect. The light was right, the angle was clear, and the street below was quiet. Victor steadied his breath and prepared to take the shot. But as he squeezed the trigger, the weapon jammed. Seconds felt like hours as the politician's car drove safely past. The crowd around the car paid no attention to the failed attempt, but Victor's heart sank. He scrambled to clear the jam, his hands shaking. Panic set in. In the chaos of his fumbling, Victor dropped the rifle, making noise that drew unwanted attention. Security guards in the area quickly scanned the rooftops. Victor had no choice but to abandon his position and flee. The politician survived unscathed, unaware of how close he had come to death. This failure was worse than the first. Word spread rapidly through the criminal networks that Victor Kane was not only unlucky, but unreliable. His name was whispered with doubt and disdain. More importantly, Victor realized that his nerves could betray him at the worst moments. The pressure of the job, the weight of the target's importance, had overwhelmed him. Yet, even as his reputation faltered, Victor's assignments kept coming. This baffled many. Why would anyone continue to hire a hitman who failed so spectacularly? What no one knew was that Victor was being manipulated, caught in a trap far bigger than himself. His employers believed in him, or at least wanted to, but the reality was different. Victor's second failure exposed more than his shaky skills. It revealed a dangerous truth. The world of contract killing was filled with deception and betrayal. Victor was beginning to understand that he was not just failing because of his mistakes. Someone was setting him up to fail. His handlers were playing a deadly game, and Victor was the pawn. Despite the fear and doubt growing inside him, Victor kept moving forward. He told himself the next job would be different, that this time he would not be the punchline of a criminal joke, but the city's dark alleys whispered warnings that Victor was heading toward a dangerous fall, one that could cost him everything. Victor Kane's third assignment was supposed to be the turning point, a chance to reclaim his reputation and prove his worth. This time, the target was a mob boss, known as Salvatore, the Razor Moretti, a man feared for his ruthless grip on the city's underground. Taking him out would change the balance of power forever. The payment promised was the largest Victor had ever seen. He couldn't afford to fail again. This job demanded more than just skill. It required patience, stealth, and a flawless plan. Victor spent weeks gathering information, watching Salvatore's movements, learning the layout of his heavily guarded mansion. Every detail mattered. The boss was paranoid, surrounded by bodyguards and security cameras. One wrong move could mean death for Victor, but he was determined. Failure was no longer an option. On the night of the hit, Victor put his plan into action. He sneaked past the outer fences and disabled some of the security lights. Every step was calculated, every breath held tight. The mansion was quiet, except for the faint hum of distant music and voices inside. Victor climbed to the second-floor window where Salvatore was said to have his office. From there, he planned to take the shot with a suppressed pistol. But as Victor prepared to fire, disaster struck. A hidden alarm, triggered by a motion sensor he hadn't detected, screamed through the estate. Suddenly, floodlights blazed too, life illuminating the yard in harsh white light. The bodyguards scrambled, shouting orders into radios, guns drawn. Victor's element of surprise was gone. With sirens wailing in the distance, Victor was forced into a desperate escape. He darted through the garden, his heart pounding, dodging security guards and tripping over unfamiliar terrain. In his haste, he lost his weapon in a thicket. Police and backup from the mob arrived quickly, surrounding the mansion. Victor barely slipped away, disappearing into the dark streets. This failure was unlike the others. It wasn't just about missing a shot. It was about walking into a trap. The alarm had been set specifically to catch intruders like him. Victor realized too late that someone had betrayed him, giving away his plan. His supposed employers had either failed to provide accurate intel or had set him up entirely. The consequences were severe. Victor's name became even more tarnished. The mob and police were now both hunting him, one for revenge, the other for justice. His failed hit on Salvatore, the razor Moretti, made him a marked man, caught between two dangerous forces. Behind the scenes, investigators began piecing together a disturbing pattern. Each of Victor's botched jobs wasn't just bad luck or incompetence. There was a darker strategy at play. Someone wanted Victor to fail, to expose him, or to lead enemies straight to him. It was a deadly game of manipulation, and Victor was the pawn. Haunted by betrayal and hunted by enemies, Victor's world was closing in. What began as a chance for redemption had turned into a nightmare. The once hopeful hitman was now a fugitive, running from shadows darker than any target he had ever faced. His next move would decide if he survived or disappeared forever. As Victor Kane's failures piled up, something unusual caught the attention of law enforcement and rival criminals alike. The pattern of his botched hits was too consistent to be mere coincidence. Each assignment ended in chaos, a missed shot, a triggered alarm, or a fleeing target. Investigators began digging deeper into Victor's background and recent activities, and the picture that emerged was far more complicated than anyone had expected. What no one initially realized was that Victor was being used as an unknowing pawn in a much larger, more dangerous game. Rival crime syndicates were manipulating the contracts he received, deliberately setting him up for failure. These syndicates aimed to expose hidden enemies, test loyalties, and flush out informants by sending Victor into impossible situations. In other words, Victor was being sent on missions designed not to succeed, but to fail spectacularly. And every failure brought attention to those who wanted him caught or controlled. The revelation shocked even Victor himself. He had thought he was simply bad at his job, that nerves and mistakes were his downfall. But he was actually trapped in a web of deceit. His employers, believing they were using a reliable assassin, had no idea they were handing him assignments laced with betrayal. On the other side, the syndicates feeding false intel were watching his every move, ready to strike if he stepped out of line. Law enforcement agencies began connecting dots between the failed hits, rival factions, and undercover operations. Victor's repeated mistakes created opportunities for police raids and arrests of key criminals. His missteps, accidental or not, became tools for law enforcement to dismantle powerful criminal networks. Suddenly, Victor was not just a failing hitman. He was an unexpected catalyst in a dangerous chess match between crime and justice. Meanwhile, Victor's mental state was deteriorating. He was overwhelmed by the realization that his life was not his own. Every mission brought danger not only from his targets, but from those who hired him, from hidden enemies within his own circles. Trust was impossible. He was caught between powerful forces, used as a disposable pawn while his name became a joke and a warning. Despite the chaos, Victor tried to regain control. He sought out clues, tried to understand who was manipulating him and why. But every lead only deepened the mystery. The people pulling strings remained in the shadows, invisible and untouchable. Victor's failures had become their weapons, his botched hits their bait. The truth about Victor Kane's role in this deadly game revealed how fragile and complex the criminal underworld truly was. What seemed like incompetence was actually a sign of manipulation, betrayal, and power struggles far beyond one man's control. Victor had become a tragic figure, a skilled killer undone not by his own hands, but by the forces around him. This chapter of Victor's story ends with the chilling realization that in the world he inhabited, no one was safe. Not even the hitman. The line between hunter and prey had blurred, and Victor was trapped in the middle. His next move would decide if he could escape the trap or be consumed by it entirely. Victor Kane's final assignment was unlike any other. The target was a man accused of betraying a powerful crime syndicate, a traitor who had supposedly leaked secrets to law enforcement. The job was presented as the ultimate test. Succeed, and Victor would finally earn respect and a large payout. Fail, and the consequences would be deadly. Victor felt the weight of this mission more than ever. His past mistakes had caught up with him, and this hit felt like a last chance. Victor spent days preparing, but something about the job unsettled him. The information he received was vague and contradictory. The man he was supposed to kill moved, cautiously, protected by layers of security and unknown allies. Victor couldn't shake the feeling that he was walking into a trap, but the promise of redemption pushed him forward. On the night of the hit, Victor followed the target through a maze of city streets, waiting for the perfect moment. As he closed in, something unexpected happened. Instead of a criminal mastermind, the man revealed himself as an undercover police officer. The target wasn't a traitor to the syndicate. He was gathering evidence against them. Victor's whole world shifted in an instant. Faced with this truth, Victor made a choice that surprised even himself. He lowered his weapon and disappeared into the night, refusing to complete the hit. This act of mercy was dangerous. It meant turning against his employers and the powerful syndicates controlling his life. Victor knew that walking away could cost him everything, but killing an innocent man was a line he wasn't willing to cross. In the days that followed, Victor vanished from the city's underworld. The syndicates, furious at his betrayal, hunted him relentlessly. Police, now aware of his involvement, also kept a close watch. Victor was caught between two deadly forces with nowhere to hide. His past failures and betrayals had painted a target on his back. Eventually, Victor was arrested, not for murder, but on charges related to illegal weapons and fraud. The authorities knew he was involved in more sinister activities, but lacked evidence to charge him with assassination attempts. Behind bars, Victor became a shadow of the man he once hoped to be. His story was one of failure, manipulation, and survival against impossible odds. Victor Kane's downfall revealed a harsh truth about the criminal world. Even the most feared assassins could be pawns in games far bigger than themselves. His failures, once seen as incompetence, were in fact signs of a deeper betrayal. The hitman who botched every job was not just unlucky, he was trapped in a deadly web of deceit and power struggles. In the end, Victor's story leaves us with a haunting question. Was he truly incapable? Or was he simply a man caught in a deadly game he never fully understood? The answer remains buried in the shadows he once moved through. A reminder that in the world of crime, nothing is ever as simple as it seems.